All right, now we're going to go into time of discussion. Suzanne, please go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that was so fantastic and such a great topic. And thank you so much for putting that together. Got me thinking about so many things. Um, the last thing that I was thinking of was, and I made a comment in the chat, was that both grumbling and praise oftentimes are things that we just do silently in our head. And and so that's why we're encouraged to take every thought captive to Christ, because the grumblings start in our heart and then they come out of our mouth. Like Jesus said, all the bad things that people do start in the heart, which is the seat of motivation to the Hebrew, in the Hebrew culture. And so that's where we have to catch the grumbling. So it's not like stop grumbling, like shut your mouth as you're grumbling. It's more like catch it in your head and your heart before you let it get to take over how, your whole body in a sense, so that you work on correcting the attitude, whether it's like you said, unbelief or ingratitude or whatever it is that's causing you to grumble, jealousy maybe of somebody else. Um, so before it grows too big, like, is it James that talks about like the sin, for it gives birth to sin when you start, feeding it and watering it like a plant. So yeah, so that was what I thought about. It's like we definitely want to praise God and replace the grumbling with praise. But yeah, it's got to start before it even gets out of our mouth. So I think that's great. I love all your content there, Samuel. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your appreciation. Um, yeah, no, that's right. And I think that a part of the reason why I always was curious about complaining, like what's such a big deal about it, is because I would just think of the action and I wouldn't think of the heart intention behind it. Um, and so yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Like you're right, because it does start from internal. So we got to make sure that there's transformation there so that then there can be transformation outwardly. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The Willenberg family.
Hey, thank you, Samuel. Really good stuff and really thought-provoking just because it's really easy to look back at like the Israelites and see like how could they be so grumbly and unthankful, but then you look at ourselves in modern life, we're the same way. It's just the different things. Um, and it's just easy to get into this kind of mindset of complaining, and it's easy to see with children, but they're just mimicking what they see, right? So it's like children are like, I'm hungry or I'm bored, but that's really what they're seeing adults around them do, just in different wording. So and it's a good point too, like you made about something as simple as fast food. So something that's people will call that sometimes like a first world problem. We're grumpy because our fast food's not fast enough, or because like a sporting event gets rained out, or something like that. But really, the more we can just be thankful and think about God and have our heart in that place, the grumbling and complaining will just go away. So I really like where you went with that. How it's a can be kind of a reflection of where our heart is. So really nice work on that.
Yeah, thanks. And I thought about mentioning something. I chose not to put it in my official teaching, but also because I thought about that with, we see that with children. But with children, I remember I was listening to this podcast on personality disorders, and they mentioned that, with children, their emotions are more intense. They get caught up in their emotions. They're not able to distinguish between themselves and their emotions and look at their emotions. So they oftentimes when they're growing up, they don't think I am angry. Instead, they just blow up like the Hulk, right? Because there's that lack of physical maturity. But as we grow up, there should be that maturity, right? That we grow up into that maturity, as Paul says. When when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I did all that. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And so yeah, it's funny because it's true. Like I'm an adult. I'm 25 years old. It's one thing for a 10-year-old to complain. It's another thing for me to complain about my food, right? So no, that's good. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, let me lower my hand here. Yeah, I was just telling my husband this morning, I was looking at a course, kind of taking a course, but kind of half in and half out of the course myself. And looking at this, there's this course, I can't remember the guy, I think he wrote a book too, How to Speak So People Will Listen. And there's an actual course that men in business take all around the world, marketers, so that your language, the way that you present your ideas, your concepts, conversations, whether in personal relationship, um, you're just a top-notch business professional, or you're a teacher, or you're a pastor, how to speak in a way that people really want to listen to you. And one of the things he mentions is, please, nobody wants to listen to somebody that's constantly complaining. And he talks about the spiritual roots. He doesn't say this is the Bible, but he talks about, how incredible it is to listen to other people that all they do is whine, whine, whine. There's nothing good in their mouth. And it's just irritating. And he talked about the gift of sound and how certain noises can cause deprivation of sleep. The way that you articulate in your language can cause harm as well as healing and goodness. And I was amazed at what he's a professional guy that goes around the world. He lives in Scotland, but he's a professional dude that teaches all kinds of smart people how to talk, literally vocal tones. Now, I don't have this down. Obviously, I'm interested because I am very aware of myself, and very not self-deprivation, but you have to be a critic of your own, like look in the mirror and see what's going on with you, and somebody says, straighten out your own self before you try to straighten somebody else out. And I just thought it was just so enlightening. And he talks about, and this is talking about just speaking, using your voice and the gift of language. He mentions the seven deadly sins, and this guy is not religious. And I'm thinking, wow, how many truths that come out of the Bible, that you can read in the scriptures, are so true today, and it is, I have a friend and she is so hard to hear. After 19 years of trying to help her articulate in a more positive fashion her issues, she refuses to learn from me. And it is annoying. When I get off the phone, I want to throw up. And I don't want to let her go, but I did want to ask her if she wanted to learn how to have more friends. I mean, you're in your 70s now, and everybody doesn't want to be around you, and there's a reason for that. So there's some criticism if you have a good friend that can take you to the side and say, hey, you know what? I just want to critique something. You are a constant complainer. You are so negative, like the whole world's going to hell in a handbag. All this kind of language and hate speech really deteriorates the human mind and the body. And this is a guy that just wrote a book, has lesson plans for how to speak well and what not to say. And I was so enlightened by what this man had to offer as far as your sounds, the way you come across, people they don't want to listen to you because you're just a blowhard, and how to correct that and how to use speech and language. And I'm not there yet, Samuel, but since you're bringing all this up about complaining, and that was one of the areas that he mentioned, is nobody wants to listen to all this. It's irritating, it hurts the eardrums, you get a headache, get a migraine after you get off the phone. And he says why that is. And, we're creatures that want to, spend time well with good friends. And he mentions creating loneliness for yourself in relationship is just to be one of those cranky people that complain. You ain't gonna have a friend in the world. People will have mercy, but they don't want to be around you because you're so destructive with your complaining and your murmuring and is there anything good, But I just wanted to plug in and mention that and give you some feedback. This was really good.
Sure, thank you, Donna. And one of the passages that comes to mind when it comes to like that topic of how we use our voice, um, or I guess in this particular context about complaining, it's 1 Corinthians 13:1, where it says, if I speak with the tongues of mankind and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal, right? That's just something that if someone's just playing drums right next to you really loudly. That's just gonna blow out your ear and you're gonna get tinnitus and it's gonna be terrible. And that's what someone who's constantly complaining is like, right? So no, that makes a lot of sense. And I thank you for your comments. Let's see. All right, is there anybody else that wanted to share anything? If not, then we can go ahead and close out. Stephen Phillips, go ahead.
This was so good, just so good. Adding on just to what others have said, I like the way you brought out the difference between grumbling and grieving. Because some people are in positions, I guess because of my background in healthcare and stuff, where they're grieving a loss. It could be a personal loss. I think about my nephew, Will. Uh, but there is a difference. And then the perspective for that person who is grieving a loss, grieving something that just seems like there's no end to it and won't let up. But this shows you, you can't, it's not that you can't speak or in your heart, but it's how, in terms of asking about it, asking God, approaching Him. And I just like the way that you really made a difference and showed the difference in the approach with the two. I think this was just such a good teaching. And it's an example of how it's subtle, and yet at the same time, it is huge. And we talk about the elephant in the room. And it's an elephant in the room, but sometimes we miss it, and it all goes to that heart. And just thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you for your comments.
Samuel, that's
Uh,
a great teaching. I'll just add just a few things. I know sometimes I'll look at something and it's not right the way I want it, and I'm going like, well, they should change that. But a lot of times I think to myself is that, if it's on your heart that something is wrong, it's on your heart that you should change it. So yeah, very good teaching, Samuel. Great.
yeah, thanks. And that's a great attitude to take. Like, if I'm so bothered by this, is there something that I could do about it? And that's a really good way to like check your own heart about like, okay, at some point, like if I am really so bothered by this, I should do something about this. Yeah, so that's a really, really great point. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for your comments. Um, thank you very much. And yeah, if you're watching online on the video, God bless you.